For those growing up in the late 2000s to early 2010s and had unrestricted internet access, you probably know what a creepypasta is. And for those who don't, which is surprisingly a lot of you, they are basically internet horror stories that originated from old forums. And a few of them have stuck with me throughout the years. Few in particular being Slender Man, Jeff the Killer, despite it being low-key kinda ass, and Ben Drowned. Sorry about that. But one in particular I want to talk about today is Mario. With an unassuming name like Mario, you would assume it'd be like some just shitty .exe bullcrap, but it's not. It genuinely has some really creepy moments, especially when it comes to them describing the dead body, and then there's a picture associated with it that we'll get to later on in the video, but I don't want to keep y'all waiting. Let's just get straight into it. So, it happened tonight of all nights. I was bored, obviously contemplating what I thought I could do to waste time, as I chatted with people in SMWC. We had good times, and shared a few laughs together. Out of boredom, I decided to patrol the hacks rating v moderated section. Seems that we had quite a bit, 33 if I recall correctly. The first few hacks I saw, when I sorted them by date, were a couple of really horrible ones with bad screenshots to boot. I naturally showed these hacks to Centralites, currently on SMWC. We were laughing at how bad some of them were, but when I got to a hack called Mario, just that, nothing more, nothing less. The description seemed quite odd, as if some Japanese hacker was trying to translate the original plot of Super Mario World, and failing horribly. I showed this to Kieran, and he started laughing at it. It reads as follows. As you play the role of Super Mario Plumber, verify that you are a beautiful Princess Uto Sutoru. Again, Bowser kidnapped the evil king. It is your job to save her. This hack includes 6 levels of very long. I simply dismissed this as someone trying to act Japanese and release a crappy hack with some edits. That's what I thought it was at first. Curiosity got the best of me. I decided to download the hack. I didn't know what I was in for, since the single screenshot of it was just the title screen with nothing but the letters. Mario, from Super Mario World's title screen. I thought it was a little odd how there were no dates or anything either, as hackers usually place their names and dates in the titles to mark when the project was started. So when I opened the hack, I was greeted by 2 files, one called 3007014, a simple text file that was 27 kilobytes in size, and the IPS file, simply named Mario. For some odd reason, I wanted to see what the author of the hack had to say, but when I opened the hack in Notepad, there was nothing but indistinguishable symbols and letters and punctuations, sort of like how when you open a ROM in a text editor, like Notepad, seems like the author just completely copied his ROM into text form, though I could be wrong. Taking a closer look at the top of the text file, mixed in with the gibberish, I found the only thing that looked like English there. Here's a piece of what I found. Find me, find me, find me, find me, find me, find me. To be honest, I didn't know what to make of this. I eventually decided it was simply to waste some of my time by making me find some text in the gibberish file that I'm willing to bet no one will ever be able to make sense of. I decided because of my interest was slowly growing, I would start looking through my horribly disorganized download folder for a clean ROM, which I had downloaded a great deal of time before the events of tonight unfolded. And an IPS patcher, of course. My choice for the job was Lunar IPS. So, I proceeded to move the ROM and the IPS patcher to the folder with the hack. I patched the ROM, not knowing what to expect next, and I quickly hurried to drag it to ZSNES and play what I thought was going to be a terrible form of a ROM image. I noticed on boot up that the author had taken the time to change the header of his hack. Instead of the usual Super Mario World you normally see when booting up a ROM in ZSNES, it just had the letters Mario there again. At this point, I gained a little hope, because normally people who do horrible half-ass edits to the ROM generally don't know enough to change a header title. I thought I wasn't wasting my time with this, and my mood brightened slightly at the thought of seeing what the author had to offer in his little, interesting hack. Regardless as to what his intentions were, I felt that something was wrong. Not in the sense that the palette was slightly bad, but that the hack was empty, like something had happened. Upon pressing start and selecting a new file, like a lot of other countless Mario hacks I've played in the past, there was some sort of intro screen that basically described the entirety of the plot in a short paragraph, just small enough to fit into the small black box. I began reading, and for the most part, a message stayed the same, but there was one key factor that made this interesting. Apparently, the main antagonist of this hack wasn't Bowser at all, it was Mario? The message reads as follows: "Welcome, this is Dinosaur Land. In this strange land, we find that Princess Toadstool is missing again. Looks like Mario is at it again." What the? This wasn't the original message from Super Mario World. I thought to myself, normally I wouldn't think anything of this, seeing as how, over nearly 2 years at SMW Central, I've played countless hacks and I've seen many different intro messages. But this one really stuck out. At this point, I definitely knew there was something odd about this hack. Upon letting the intro level music play, I pressed the start button on my controller to finally get to the overworld and begin my journey into this unknown hack. Upon entering the overworld, everything seemed normal. Same old level paths, same old music, but the level names were different. Instead of Yoshi's house, like it always has been every time I've ever played Super Mario World, it was now simply just Yoshi's. The house part was gone. I thought this was strange, and I began to lose hope in the hack, because it seemed like barely anything had changed at all from the original. I was hoping to see something new. Well, unluckily for me, I got my wish. As you'll see when you read on, I decided to enter the level out of curiosity. When I entered, the whole house that's normally there was gone. No smoke, no fire, no more little birdies, no more treehouse. All that was left was the message box. I decided to hit it. Upon opening, the message I expected to be there was replaced with something that seemed like binary. Apparently, it says Notepad. At this point, I was on IRC telling everyone about how the hack was certain to weird me out, which yielded some sarcastic responses. But hey, I expected it. Anyways, after this, my interest level in the hack skyrocketed, along with my paranoia. Oh boy, was I in for a fun surprise. So I decided to head left. Upon reaching what was known as Yoshi's Island 1, the level was labeled Never Come Back. Now I thought things were going to be all Kaizo Death Trap, because generally that is what people name their levels in Kaizo's hacks. To make sure that the player doesn't go there, to my surprise, it wasn't quite that way, though I wish it had been. Upon entering level 105, I was greeted by the insanely loud clown car sound that Bowser's flying vehicle makes right before Peach falls out. Of course, my headphones being moderately high, the sound scares the living shit out of me, which wouldn't have happened if I hadn't been so nervous beforehand. I decided at this time it would be best if I turned the volume on my headphones down, as to not get any more unpleasant surprises such as that one. When I entered the level, other than the music, everything seemed to be the same, except for the fact that the little Koopa that slides on the edges wasn't there anymore, nor was the Bonsai Bill. The Dragon Coin was still there, however, for some odd reason, I wasn't able to collect it, or any other Dragon Coins at all. The author made certain of that. I also noticed that there was a brown used block near the spot where the Bonsai Bill normally shows up. I can only assume that this was a revisit to the level after I had beaten it, like I heard in some half-assed creepy stories in other Mario games. Now I was wondering why were things like this, making me wonder about the intro message. Had Mario done something previously in Dinosaur Land? Was this from Bowser's point of view? I quickly dismissed the latter opinion because it seemed kind of stupid, so that left me thinking that Mario at one point in time in the author's story did something, but what did Mario do? My mind was nothing but rushing thoughts at this point. However, I dismissed them and ventured further into the level, only to find that basically all the blocks had been hit, all coins collected, save for the Dragon Coins. Those are still there and unobtainable. That there were no enemies, and that I could no longer go down pipes. What kind of bullshit am I playing here? I kept thinking to myself. At this point, I felt uncomfortable, but I decided to keep venturing. Eventually, I came across a message box, which I wasn't surprised was still in the level. Being the idiot I am, I went and hit the box. Upon hitting it, I was greeted with the familiar black box once again. The message was edited, obviously. I'd figured that this was a given at this point. It reads as follows. Point of advice, I hate you. Now I thought things were starting to get the vibe that the author was a twisted and warped individual, and that I was right about Mario having done something. At this point, I was basically rushing to get to the end of the level, so I just scurried by and then came across another message box. However, this one was blank, with point of advice at the top and nothing else in it. I quickly discarded it and headed off further to the right, hoping to free myself of the hell that was once level 105. Upon reaching the end, I saw a fire flower in the top block where the four-way block intersection used to be. However, it was too high for me to reach by normal means, so I just continued onward, like the blind, curious idiot I am would do. I finally beat the level, and as usual, the path to the Yellow Switch Palace was unlocked. I decided to head up the path that normally leads there, and I found that when I entered the main overworld, every other landmass and decoration, besides the ghosts from the ghost houses and Yoshi's Island itself, were gone. Nothing really changed at the Yellow Switch Palace except for the Switch message. All that changed was that Switch Palace was changed to Mario World. Boring. Anyways, when I thought I was done, this abomination that calls itself a hack, I found that Yoshi's Island 2 has also been edited. Oh joy, I thought to myself. Upon reaching Yoshi's Island 2, I found that it had been renamed to Yoshi's House, the original name of level 104. I decided to enter and found that the palette of the level had been altered, along with the background. They seem to have been changed to the same palette as Yoshi Islands 3. You know, the greenish tan and such. Except the background was pushed down, and now is a rotting brown color, and the vegetation on the FG was no longer present. I decided to explore the level a bit, and came across a trail of Koopas that countless players have used a shell to wreck free 1-ups with. I ignored them and go see if any more of the level had changed, and eventually came across the question mark that holds Yoshi, and decided to free him. Upon doing so, I got this message. Hooray, thank you for rescuing me. My name is Yoshi. On my way to rescue my friends, Mario trapped me in that egg. This had me wondering what kind of sick and twisted hack I was playing. I had thoughts of all the possible scenarios of Mario attacking Dinosaur Land horribly and causing irreversible damage. The author had me hooked with this sick little game, and like any other idiot, I took the bait and kept coming back for more. Somewhere not far off from Yoshi, I found a message box in the same place I remember it always had been. Though, if I learned anything from playing this, it was whatever was in the box was not going to be remotely normal in the slightest. This made me hesitant to hit it, but I ended up doing so anyways. I wanted to find out more. The message I was greeted with was as follows. But, is there anything I can do to change your mind? What the fuck, I thought to myself. What the hell did this even mean? Change my mind? What would I change my mind about anyways? Was this about Mario and whatever he did? And about how people were trying to convince him to stop? Was Yoshi talking to me through message boxes? Or what was it about me? About me playing the hack, asking me, as if the hack was trying to talk to me through message boxes. Either way, whether it was for more backstory on what Mario had done, or if it was questioning my decision to keep going, I decided to keep progressing, despite the obvious signs that I should have quit playing the hack a while ago. As I progressed further, I found that I was right. All vegetation was gone, and nothing was left at all, save for like a few enemies, chucks and moles and such. Even the pipes were gone. I came across another message box. Like all the other times before, I decided to hit it. I was greeted with another cryptic message. Point of advice. This is the selfish way out. The selfish way out? What the hell? Was he calling me selfish for continuing to play the hack despite the warnings? Had Mario made some kind of selfish decision that had only benefited him? Was Yoshi still trying to talk to me? What the hell was this guy trying to tell me? At this point I was creeped out, to the point I was shaking slightly. A mix of anticipated fear and the fact that my room was terribly cold last night. I closed the message box and once again proceeded further. The area with the moles seemed to be the same, except for the fact that the block next to the vine block was gone, along with the happy clouds at the dragon coin the vine allowed access to. This made me feel gloomy to say the least, not so much frightened. I was depressed. It's a feeling I couldn't really explain well. From this point on, it was basically just an empty stretch of land to the end of the level. I proceeded quickly. I wanted to get the fuck out of there. As I felt that I had spent enough time looking around, so me and Yoshi, I still had him at the time, opened up the next path on the overworld. It had changed. What was once Yoshi's Island 3 read as Yoshi Island 7. Memories of Super Bobito World flooded my mind. How the levels would take giant leaps in number order, which made it seem ridiculous. Though, at this time, I didn't quite find it as humorous, due to common sense and obvious reasons explained later. I entered the level. As I entered, I was welcomed by a solid black background and a blue and gray colored floor. The place seemed frozen, lifeless and barren. There was nothing in the level at all, save for the goal point. Just a clear stretch of land with nothing else. I quickly lost interest and finished the level. It seemed like the most empty and creepy level in the game, though as you'll read on, it gets far worse. With the level beaten, a new path opened up. Yoshi's Island 4 was now just leave now. I hesitated as to whether I would stop playing, but my interest kept me going further. At this point, SMWC was nothing but me posting findings and messages from the hack, so that the others could experience what I was experiencing. The channel was sadly unusually inactive. It seemed like no one really cared, or wasn't around. I felt alone. I proceeded into the level. For the most part, everything seemed the same, save for the fact that there was no water at all to keep me from falling into pits without using Yoshi as a sacrifice. The level was also void of all enemies as well. Whenever I got into an area that seemed too far for me to jump, I found that I could just walk right across on the air, thus getting rid of the need to use Yoshi as a sacrifice. It's apparent that the hack wanted me to keep him. I could tell that much. I was able to get to the pipe that usually leads to the exit level. I went in and found that the room was exactly the same. Everything in the right place, nothing edited. Thought. The message box, again, broke the mood of that brief moment of relief I had experienced upon entering the pipe. At this point, I was questioning whether I should keep going to see how it ended or quit. Now, while I had still had a bit of common sense left, the message box was sort of indistinguishable, and I couldn't really make sense of it. For a moment, I tried to figure out what it meant, but eventually, I just gave up and beat the level. I figured that the box wasn't worth the time anyways. With the level beaten, the path to the first world castle opened, now renamed Number 1 Iggy's Castle to Number 1 Go Back. I sure did feel welcomed here. I decided to completely ignore the level name, as I just wanted to get this over with and be done with it forever. What seemed like a normal castle intro was especially made creepy given the fact that I had to dismount Yoshi. I felt for the first time that I was actually abandoning him, and I wish I had taken him in with me. The inside room of the castle looked strange. There was this darkish, bluish, greenish black lava on the ceiling, and gold points that looked like pillars. Aside from that, next to each pillar, there was an increasing amount of message boxes the further I got. The room was basically just a big hallway with no enemies or anything of the sort. Every message box I pressed gave me either a blank box with Yoshi's signature at the bottom, or the message that read as follows. Another cryptic message at this point. I wasn't surprised, not the slightest. Again, the thoughts in my head started circling around, wondering what exactly Mario had done, why he was here, and why everything seemed to hate everything about him, and wanted him gone forever. I was feeling more depressed than scared at this point. To be honest, I had no idea what to expect next. I proceeded down the long hallway, checking message boxes filled with nothing but the same two messages over and over. It's like they were telling me to stop playing or something. Obviously, I ignored them and kept going. I eventually reached the end of the hallway. There was a door, which I entered. I was welcomed by nothing but a small section of land. The level was also auto-scrolling, so I figured that this must be the end. That the author wanted me to jump into the pit and commit suicide or something, thus ending my journey. I was wrong. The auto-scroll pushed me over the ledge, and I was still walking, unfortunately. The whole level was nothing but a long stretch of invisible land to another small piece of land, just big enough for a boss door to fit. The auto-scroll came to a stop, and I prepared for the worst. I gathered my composure, swallowed some of my spit in my mouth, and took a deep breath. I entered, nothing but a normal Iggy boss. I felt cheated in a way, but I was actually happy to think it was finally over. I defeated Iggy with 2 jumps effortlessly, which was actually the quickest I had ever beaten him before. After he fell in the lava, the course clear message popped up. As usual, it ended, and I was brought to the rescue Ig scene. Though instead of the usual message, I was shown something disturbing and vastly different, like a profile of a scene of a crime. It was as follows. Victim 1. Eyeballs were unable to be found. The victim was found lying on her carpet. Causes of death unknown. Hand marks with unidentifiable fingerprints were found all over the corpse. What the fuck is wrong with this guy? I said as I read the disturbing message. I mean, it was a hack, but still, who the hell was this victim? Why were her eyeballs gouged out? And just what could have made those unidentifiable fingerprints that were just found on her body? Was this Mario's doing? Is this what the author was trying to tell me? And furthermore, was the girl Princess Toadstool? It took me a while to see if I read the message correctly. Then I proceeded outwards, wondering what would happen next, since the main map was completely gone, and there was no trace of it anywhere. To my surprise, it showed the path marked for Donut Plains. The event tiles were still there, marking the path to the lone level on the giant map that was once the main world. It was called Donut Plains 1. I thought we were finally done once more, but when I entered the new level, I could see that, like the previous times, upon entering, I saw 2 message boxes. They said as follows. I found it quite strange that both message boxes were contradicting each other. One was telling me that there was no way out of this accursed hell, and the other was telling me that if I could fly away, I could be free. Though I saw no feathers or enemies to grab one with. Was this telling me that I could either rise up and go to heaven or stay in hell, forever wallowing in despair? Did I need a cape to proceed? And what happens after this? Is the whole game like this? I began to create more thoughts in my head, trying to figure the message boxes out, but to no avail. I proceeded to walk to the right. I made a jump, but found that I was stuck in an area. There was an invisible wall, and I thought I hit a dead end. When I landed, I tried to move right again to see if there was any way to go on. All of a sudden, I heard the pipe sound and watched the pipe animation, except there was no pipe present, so it looked quite odd. I was taken to a level with a black background. There were stone blocks for the ground and a small door. I was immediately given a mushroom to prevent me from entering it, so I proceeded further to see if there were anything else in the level. I found that the room was nothing but a long stretch of concrete blocks and doors that were too small for me to enter because of my mushroom I had. It was obvious the author didn't want me going through any of them, or wouldn't have gotten the mushroom in the first place. As I proceeded, I found myself at a dead end, since there was nothing left for me to look at. I tried to go right again. It worked. I went through the brick wall. It acted like a pipe, and Mario went through a pipe animation that looked like he was going into the darkness. I was taken to a small room with what seemed like a pit in a wall. I jumped down into the pit, seeing as how there was no other option, though I found that the bottom of it was solid. I tried pressing down in a bunch of areas until I came across a pipe. Mario slowly did the pipe transition downwards off the screen. Expecting another level, I waited, but there was no more, just a black screen. I was unable to continue, unable to pause or exit the level or move. There was nothing. Nothing at all. This was the video game representation of death. A crash. Mario had died. After playing, I think I finally understand what was happening. I believe Mario was atoning for his actions, eventually being plummeted into a hell that looked exactly like Yoshi's Island, where he lost to the grip of death forever. I was finally done playing and quite relieved that at that. The nightmare was finally over, and activity on IRC seemed to be back up again. I quickly shared my tales with the rest of SMWC and typed out this document. If you feel daring enough, you too can witness my tale firsthand. Remember, guys, it's only a hack. It can't hurt you. Or can it? Aftermath. The hack, being the first of its kind to hit SMW Central, gained a lot of attention. Even the site's founder and administrator, Kieran, immediately recognized the text file that Adam mistook for the .smc ROM image converted into text file as a JPEG due to its header. He tried manually converting it back to JPEG, but the result was barely viewable. The only recognizable part was the very top. He then continued to search Google for images with his attempt resolution 327 by 277, and the second result struck him as relevant.